The forest at night was a living tapestry of bioluminescence. Under different circumstances, Marcus would have been captivated by the scientific wonder of it all, the floating spores that drifted like constellations, the pulsing fungi that lined the massive tree trunks, the flowering vines that tracked their movement with gentle shifts of blue-green light. But now those same lights made them visible targets as they raced through the undergrowth. "They're deploying trackers," Marcus gasped, checking the portable scanner he'd grabbed during their escape. 3 skimmers moving in standard search formation. Alira's luminescence had dimmed to near invisibility, a survival adaptation, he realized. Only the faintest patterns rippled across her skin follow quickly, no hidden paths. Their flight had grown more desperate with each passing hour. The electromagnetic pulse had bought them time to escape the facility perimeter, but the corporate security team had mobilized faster than Marcus anticipated. What he'd expected to be a day's head start had dwindled to mere hours. He stumbled over a twisted root, exhaustion making his movements clumsy. Alira's hand, cool, smooth, with a subtle electric current that tingled against his palm, steadied him before he fell. "Must rest soon, human body failing." "I'm fine," he insisted, though his burning lungs argued otherwise. "We need more distance." Alira stopped abruptly, her head tilting in that peculiar angle that Marcus had come to recognize as her listening posture. Her luminescence flared briefly in what he now understood as alarm. "Waterpath necessary, cleanses tracks." She led him toward a sound he hadn't noticed before, the rushing of water. They emerged at the bank of a river that cut through the forest, its surface shimmering with reflected bioluminescence. Without hesitation, Alira guided him into the cool current. "Downstream?" Marcus asked, shivering as the water rose to his chest. "Number against flow hides sent better." They fought the current for nearly a kilometer before Alira guided them back to shore and into a dense thicket of vegetation. To Marcus's surprise, the plants parted before them, creating a tunnel that closed again behind their passage. "Plantkin remember verdant friends," her patterns explained. The tunnel led to a small cave hidden behind a curtain of luminous moss. Inside, crystal formations similar to those the corporation mined studded the walls, casting prismatic reflections of Alira's patterns throughout the space. "Will we be safe here?" Marcus asked, collapsing onto the soft moss that carpeted the floor. For a short time, hunter humans not find easily. As his adrenaline ebbed, the reality of their situation crashed over him. He was now a fugitive guilty of corporate espionage, property theft, and sabotage. There would be no returning to his old life, no redeeming his career or reputation. Alira must have sensed his distress. She knelt beside him, her luminescence shifting to gentle, soothing waves of amber and rose. "Marcus Light saved Alira life. Great courage." "I discovered the truth too late," he said bitterly. "They've known about your people for years. They deliberately classified you as animals to avoid legal protection statutes." "Known truth," she confirmed. "Many seasons, company humans take forestkin, some for study, some for display in far worlds." Her patterns shifted to a deep, mournful blue that made Marcus's chest tighten with shared grief. He reached out without thinking, tracing the path of a luminescent pattern across her shoulder. The light followed his touch, brightening beneath his fingers. Alira's eyes widened at the contact. For a moment, Marcus pulled back, afraid he'd committed some cultural offense, then her hand caught his, bringing it back to her skin. "Human touch different," her patterns whispered across their joined hands, "but welcome." Something shifted between them in that moment. The researcher and subject, rescuer and rescued, human and alien falling away until they were simply two beings who had chosen each other against all odds. Outside their shelter, distant engines growled as search skimmers passed overhead. "How far to your settlement?" Marcus asked, reluctantly focusing on their survival. "2 sun cycles if forest paths clear, longer if hunter humans block way." She hesitated, new patterns forming that his translation algorithm struggled to interpret. Finally, she simply pressed her palm against his chest, above his heart. "Why Marcus Light risk everything for forest stranger?" The question stripped away his scientific detachment, the professional rationalizations he'd hidden behind. Why had he thrown away everything for her? The answer came with surprising clarity. "Because I saw you," he said simply. "Not a specimen, not a research subject. You, and once I truly saw you, I couldn't pretend otherwise." Her luminescence flared in response, not with alarm, but with a brilliance that transformed the cave into a cathedral of light and color. The patterns flowing across her skin merged and shifted into forms he'd never seen before, too complex for his algorithm to translate. But somehow, as she moved closer, he understood anyway. Their first kiss was tentative, an exploration of profound differences and unexpected similarities. Her skin tasted faintly of ozone and forest rain, and the luminescence passed between them like shared breath. When his arms encircled her, her patterns flowed onto his skin, painting him temporarily with her light. Bond sharing, she explained when they finally parted, her patterns swirling with new intensity. Among verdant, only between life chosen. Is that what we are, he asked, wonder replacing exhaustion, life chosen. Paths crossed against all odds, she responded, two becoming one journey, if Marcus Hart willing. The certainty in her patterns left no room for doubt. Whatever differences existed between their species, some things translated perfectly, courage, sacrifice, and the recognition of a soul that complemented your own. That night, as corporate skimmers circled in the distance, they created a new language between them, one of touch and light, of human warmth and verdant brilliance. In the crystal-reflected glow of their shared luminescence, Marcus finally understood what Alira had been trying to tell him since their first meeting. They were not so different after all, and in their connection lay the key to saving not just her life, but the future of her entire people. Dawn broke over Silva's forest in ripples of golden light. As the first rays penetrated the cave entrance, the crystal formations came alive, refracting and amplifying the sunlight until the entire space hummed with energy. Marcus woke to find himself alone, momentarily disoriented before spotting Alira at the cave's entrance. Her luminescence pulsed in synchronization with the crystals, creating complex harmonies of light that seemed to respond to the dawn. It was a form of communication he hadn't witnessed before, not directed at him, but at the planet itself. Morning greeting to Forest Heart, she explained, sensing his wakefulness. Renews body harmony. The ritual completed, she returned to his side. Her patterns were stronger today, her movements more fluid. The proximity to natural crystals and distance from the facility had visibly revitalized her. We should move soon, Marcus said, checking his scanner. They've consolidated the search to 3 sectors, but they're working methodically. Today reach Forestkin, Alira assured him, if path crossing with hunter humans have new protection. She gestured to the cave walls, where several crystals had been carefully removed and woven into a mesh of plant fibers that now hung around her neck. Similar, smaller crystals had been fashioned into bracelets. Forest Heart crystals shield life patterns from hunter tools, old knowledge from ancestors. Marcus recognized the design's purpose immediately. The crystal's unique properties would disrupt tracking scanners. The technological sophistication required to create such devices reinforced everything he'd argued about verdant intelligence. They set out as the forest awakened, moving swiftly through paths that would have been invisible to him alone. Alira communicated with the environment in ways Marcus could only partially comprehend, coaxing vines to create bridges over treacherous terrain, identifying which luminous fruits were safe for him to eat, sensing disturbances in the forest's natural rhythms that indicated danger. By midday, they had covered remarkable distance, but the sound of skimmers grew steadily closer. Despite Alira's crystal protection, the search pattern was gradually boxing them in. They're driving us toward the unstable region, Marcus realized, studying his scanner, using the terrain to limit our options. Alira's patterns flickered with concern, dangerous choice, land breaking there, but also shortest path to kin settlement. It's a calculated risk, Marcus agreed. Harlow knows I'd prioritize your safety, so he's assuming we'd avoid that area. As they changed direction toward the unstable zone, the forest grew denser, the trees towering hundreds of meters overhead. The ground beneath their feet gradually shifted from solid earth to a semi-floating mat of vegetation over what appeared to be vast sinkholes filled with luminescent fungi. Step only where light moss grows, Alira warned. Other places no bottom. They picked their way carefully across the treacherous landscape, the distant hum of skimmers growing fainter as the search team hesitated to follow them into the dangerous terrain. Halfway across a particularly precarious stretch, Marcus's scanner emitted a warning tone. 2 ground teams approaching from opposite directions, he warned. They're risking the unstable ground. Alira's luminescence pulsed with determination. Almost reached safe path, must hurry. They increased their pace despite the danger, jumping between safe patches of glowing moss. Just as they reached more stable ground, a flash of movement caught Marcus's eye, security officers in tactical gear appearing at the edge of the sinkhole region. There they are, Dario's voice carried across the distance. Containment teams move in, capture protocols. Energy nets deployed, falling short but sending cascades of disruptive energy across the unstable ground. The vibrations triggered a chain reaction. the delicate balance of the floating vegetation suddenly collapsing as massive sinkholes began opening throughout the area. "Run!" Marcus shouted, pulling Alira toward the tree line. Behind them, chaos erupted as security officers scrambled to escape the collapsing terrain. Dario's furious commands turned to shouts of alarm as the ground gave way beneath their pursuit team. They had nearly reached safety when a final surge of energy lashed out, striking Marcus's leg. He stumbled, crying out as the paralysis field crawled up his calf. Alira caught him before he could fall, her crystals flaring with protective energy that fought against the spreading numbness. Hold to Alira's strength, her patterns urged as she half-carried him into the dense forest beyond. For hours they pushed forward, Marcus leaning heavily on Alira as feeling gradually returned to his leg. The pursuit had been temporarily halted by the terrain collapse, but they both knew it was only a matter of time before Harlow deployed new teams. As sunset approached, the forest suddenly opened into a vast clearing dominated by enormous crystal formations that dwarfed those in the cave. At the center stood structures that appeared to have grown organically from the living forest, homes woven from responsive vegetation and luminescent materials. "Kinhome," Alira's patterns announced with a surge of joy, last settlement remaining. Verdants emerged from the structures, dozens of them, their luminescence creating a symphony of light as they recognized one of their own returning. Their patterns shifted from welcome to alarm when they spotted Marcus, but Alira's lights flared in what he recognized as a protective declaration. "Life chosen," she communicated to her people, "trustworthy, brings truth knowledge." An elder verdant approached, distinguished by the complexity of patterns flowing across his skin. He studied Marcus with ancient eyes before turning to Alira. "Forest daughter returns with human bond," the elder's patterns acknowledged. "Great danger follows." "Yes," Marcus confirmed, understanding enough of the elder's communication. "The corporation won't stop searching. They'll claim this area for mining eventually, but I've brought evidence that might help." From his pack, he retrieved the data crystal containing the files he'd stolen, proof of the corporation's deliberate suppression of verdant sentience, maps of their systematic destruction of settlements, and his own research conclusively documenting their intelligence and culture. "There are laws protecting sentient species," he explained. "If we can get this evidence to the Galactic Council, we can force stellar resources to recognize your people and halt the destruction." The elder's patterns shifted thoughtfully. Many seasons tried to speak truth. Company humans refused hearing. "I know, but I'm willing to testify as a corporate insider. With these files and my testimony, we have a case." As night fell, the verdants gathered in council. Marcus watched in awe as their combined luminescence created intricate, three-dimensional patterns above the crystal formations, a form of communal communication and decision-making unlike anything in human society. Alira remained by his side, her patterns periodically flowing onto his skin in what he now recognized as gestures of affection and reassurance. "What becomes of Marcus' future if plan succeeds?" she asked privately as they waited, return to human worlds. The question struck him deeply. He hadn't considered beyond their immediate survival, beyond exposing the truth. What future could they possibly have together? "I can't go back," he said finally, "but I could stay here as an ambassador between our peoples, if your people would accept me." Her luminescence brightened with each word, already accepted by Alira Hart. Rest will follow. The council's decision came as dawn approached again. The verdants would fight for their recognition, with Marcus as their advocate. Using communications technology long hidden from corporate censors, they would transmit the evidence directly to the Galactic Council, bypassing stellar resources entirely. As the settlement prepared for the inevitable corporate response, Marcus stood with Alira at the edge of the crystal field, watching the sunrise transform the formations into prisms of living light. "This won't be easy," he said. "Harlow and the corporation will fight back with everything they have." Alira's patterns flowed across his hand, merging their luminescence as she had done in the cave. Easy path, rarely right path, together strength greater than alone fear. Around them, the forest seemed to pulse with life and purpose. For the first time since his arrival on Silva, Marcus felt truly connected to this alien world, not as an observer or researcher, but as a participant in its struggle for survival. The battle ahead would reshape both their lives, challenge the corporate powers that sought to exploit this world, and perhaps forge a new understanding between their species. But in this moment, watching the light play across Alira's luminescent form, Marcus knew with absolute certainty that he had made the right choice. Some boundaries were never meant to be permanent. Some connections transcended the differences between worlds. And sometimes, finding your place in the universe meant leaving everything familiar behind to stand beside the one whose light called to your own. New day begins, Alira's patterns whispered as the sun's rays bathed them both in golden light. New story writes across stars. Marcus smiled, his fingers intertwining with hers. Together, he promised. Her answering luminescence needed no translation at all.